Hello, thank you for joining with me. I am here in Sydney. I arrived today, this morning, and so I will be here in Australia for the next few months. And so the next few videos will be coming from Australia. But so we'll continue our exploration, our experiment of A Course in Miracles. Just to remind you, or if you're new, I am taking you through my own personal practice. So, my daily practice was to read a section of the text, to then practice a lesson, and sometimes, not all the time, contemplate one of the principle of miracles. So, today we are in chapter 21, section 5. We will be practicing lesson 45 together, and we'll be looking at principle number 13. Yes, principle number 13. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you. And so we click on Read A Course in Miracles, click on the text, scrolling down to chapter 21, Reason and Perception, and we are in section 5, the function of reason. All right, so let's begin. Paragraph 1. Perception selects and makes the world you see. It literally picks it out as the mind directs. The laws of size and shape and brightness would hold, perhaps, if other things were equal. They're not equal. For what you look for, you're far more likely to discover than what you would prefer to overlook. The still, small voice for God is not drowned out by all the ego's raucous screams and senseless ravings to those who want to hear it. Perception is a choice and not a fact. But on this choice depends far more than you may realize as yet. For on the voice you choose to hear and on the sights you choose to see depends entirely your whole belief in what you are. Perception is a witness but to this, and never to reality. Yet it can show you the conditions in which awareness of reality is possible, or those where it could never be. Let's start with the title. The title is called The Function of Reason. And so we're starting off with how we experience perception. And so it's looking at perception in order to be able to get a sense of reason. So perception is not reason. Perception is simply how we experience reality through our senses, which means that it's subjective. And if it's subjective, then it means that it is not universal, it's personal. And so our perception of reality is just based on, again, the limitations of our 5 physical senses, and then also the limitations it's based on or reflected off of our past experiences, our value system, our morality, inherited beliefs. So what this is saying is that based on your ideas about reality, that perception then selects and makes the world you see. So it's saying that perception does that. And it's saying it literally picks it out as the mind directs, right? So the mind is, again, based on your past experiences, your values, inherited beliefs, and so on. I was going to say also even soul contracts, soul agreements. It also mentions a principle that I think mentalists use and magicians. It says, for what you look for, you're far more likely to discover than what you would prefer to overlook. There's that icebreaker exercise that some presenters do to show you how you notice all the limitations of your observations and noticing by asking, notice everyone in the room who is wearing black, for example, and count how many people are wearing black. And then they'll ask, okay, how many people are wearing white? And you won't know the answer because your mind was occupied by counting the the people wearing black. And so this is just emphasizing that the mind is occupied, it's filled with what you are looking for. Then it says the still small voice for God is not drowned out by all the ego's raucous screams and senseless ravings, apparently, to those who want to hear it. Okay, so we've heard it before, right? The still small voice for God. And that still small voice is that inner knowing. It's that quiet knowing. And we can often access that when we are still and we get very honest about ourselves. It's that deep, deep down knowing, or it's the knowing that's received through the higher self, whether you experience that as going deep within or whether you experience it as expanding your consciousness to access that greater part of your mind. It's still there. It doesn't really matter. It's still the same source. Perception is a choice and not a fact. So we choose which voice we want to hear. Do we want to listen to the raucous screams and senseless ravings, apparently, of the ego, upon which our perception is based? Or do we want to choose to hear the still small voice of God? What do we choose to see? And then what this is saying is what we see depends entirely on our belief of who and what we think we are. And so if we believe ourselves to be separate and limited and vulnerable and guilty and sinful, then that's going to be reflected in our vision, in what we see. But if we realize our magnificence, our holiness, our holy light, our glorious grace, then perhaps that would create a very different kind of outcome, a very different kind of reality. So then to this, let's go to paragraph 2. So reality needs no cooperation from you to be itself, but your awareness of it needs your help because it's your choice. Listen to what the ego says and see what it directs you see. And it's sure that you will see yourself as tiny, vulnerable, and afraid. You will experience depression, a sense of worthlessness, and feelings of impermanence and unreality. You will believe that you are helpless prey to forces far beyond your own control and far more powerful than you. And you will think the world you made directs your destiny, for this will be your faith. But never believe because it is your faith, it makes reality. Okay. Alrighty. So for the most part, this paragraph is self-explanatory. It it echoes what I was saying based on what we read in paragraph one, perhaps in a more articulate way. It's saying that because you see yourself as tiny, vulnerable, and afraid, then you'll experience depression. An effect of that thought system is depression and a sense of worthlessness. You must feel worthless because you feel as though you are unworthy through the feeling, the experience of being separated. How could you be worthy and be separate? They're incongruent to the ego's point of view. But it serves the ego to maintain this illusion of worthlessness because it is the worthlessness that is the foundation of its whole system, its whole thought system, its whole worldview. So it's the ego that has us believing that we're helpless and victims to the forces beyond our own control, believing that they're more powerful than us. But what we've read in previous texts is that what we see is actually an effect of our mind, and we've been called to have 100% responsibility for what we're seeing through the lessons. In section 2, we were being called upon to take responsibility for our sight. And again, our sight is an effect of mind. So we need to take responsibility for where the periscope of our attention is on, for which thought systems are we going to make more real or choose. And so it's mentioning faith here in this paragraph. So where do we put our faith? Do we put our faith on this idea of vulnerability and impermanence, or on the alternative, on something else? The opposite. Okay, so let's go now to paragraph 3. There is another vision and another voice in which your freedom lies, awaiting but your choice. And if you place your faith in them, you'll perceive another self in you. This other self sees miracles as natural. They're as simple and as natural to it as breathing to the body. They're the obvious response to calls for help, the only one it makes. Miracles seem unnatural to the ego because it does not understand how separate minds can influence each other, nor could they do so. But minds cannot be separate. This other self is perfectly aware of this, and thus it recognizes that miracles do not affect another's mind, only its own. They always change your mind. There is no other. So this paragraph is saying there is another voice in which your freedom lies, right? So pointing to this split self. So we've got this one voice, the ego's voice, and then there's this other voice. And the paragraph capitalizes the word voice when speaking of the other voice, the voice in which your freedom lies, awaiting but your choice. And again, the way I frame choice is the periscope of your attention. Where do you choose to put your attention? What thought systems are you choosing to subscribe to listen to? There's so much power in just recognizing that you do have a choice. That as soon as you start to hear your own thoughts, and if the thoughts don't feel good, that's the alarm clock, that's the warning that it's time to check the thoughts that you're listening to and see if there's a better feeling thought that would take us to a more truthful thought and to the voice in which our freedom lies. So the voice to which belongs to this other self sees miracles as natural to it as breathing to the body. So from the ego's point of view, the small split off self, miracles seem unnatural because it doesn't understand how separate minds can influence each other. And so this points us again to holiness, this idea of whole. Our wholeness is our holiness. It's through the point of view of the holiness, there would be no confusion, because miracles would be an of course to our holiness. And this is how this paragraph ends. It says, there is no other. It's so difficult, right? It's so difficult for the ego part of the mind to grasp. It doesn't want to. But again, it's not really the point. The point is that there is another voice. If we have the ears to hear, will teach us the truth of what we are, the truth of what this is, so that we can be instruments to creating heaven here on earth, to my point of view. So I'm going to go back to share the screen for paragraph 4. You do not realize the whole extent to which the idea of separation has interfered with reason. Reason lies in the other self you have cut off from your awareness, and nothing you have allowed to stay in your awareness is capable of reason. How can the segment of the mind devoid of reason understand what reason is or grasp the information it would give? All sorts of questions may arise in it, but if the basic question stems from reason, it will not ask it. Like all that stems from reason, the basic question is obvious, simple, and remains unasked. But think not reason could not answer it. So basically it's saying, but think reason could answer it. The reason of the part of the consciousness, the part of the mind that knows the truth. And I've said many times that through the quantum healing hypnosis work, we know, because we have access to it, we have conversations with it, that there is a part of the mind that is accessible, that because all of us have it, that oversees our lives and has a different perspective about this life than the small part of the mind that believes that there are problems and grievances and upsets. But the other part doesn't feel the same way about the minutiae of this life. It's very different. And so that's where peace lies. And so we have direct experience of that through the quantum healing hypnosis work. It's not abstract, it's actual. All right, so let's continue for paragraph 5. God's plan for your salvation could not have been established without your will and your consent. It must have been accepted by the Son of God. For what God wills for him, he must receive. For God wills not apart from him, nor does the will of God wait upon time to be accomplished. Therefore, what joined the will of God must be in you now, being eternal. You must have set aside a place in which the Holy Spirit can abide and where he is. He must have been there since the need for him arose and was fulfilled in the same instant. Such would your reason tell you if you listened. Yet such is clearly not the ego's reasoning. Your reason's alien nature to the ego is proof you will not find the answer there. Yet, if it must be so, it must exist. And if it exists for you and has your freedom as the purpose given it, you must be free to find it. Okay, so all I want to say for this paragraph is perhaps it's a relief to hear again how we must have set aside a place within us in which the Holy Spirit can abide and where He is. So I feel like it's enough to just allow that to be a possibility, that within what you are, the light body, your mind, the great wisdom of your heart, the intelligence of your biology, that there is a place in which the Holy Spirit can abide. And I, again, would invite you to use your imagination as the bridge to access that in meditation or in a prayerful state. So, setting the intention to go searching for that place within. One of the meditations I have done, and what I'm about to describe, was a very effective way to help a woman who, I believe I've shared her story before, but I'll share it again. So she had come in for a quantum healing hypnosis session because she was a vegetarian, but she had become so allergic to food that she was subsisting on rice and meat, which is incompatible with being a vegetarian. And it was so difficult to shift from the boundaries of the control and the control of the ego to the unlimited part of the consciousness. And so the way that we were able to do that, though, instead was to drop into the heart center. And it was interesting because I kept on wanting to move her around. That she kept saying there was this block, there was this big block. And so my directions were, okay, go over it, go around it. I was trying different ways to handle this block. But then also there was this little whisper that was coming out as well that said she needs to go inside. And it said it maybe 3 or 4 times. And I was busy in in my I know mind experimenting with these different ways of handling the block. And then finally, by the third or fourth time, I heard I heard it. I heard, oh, she needs to go inside. And so it was from taking the lead of that direction that I helped her create or find this room within her heart center. And that's what I'm getting at. So I'm inviting you to imagine, use your imagination as the bridge to imagine a room inside of your heart that is the hearth. And so there is a fire inside of your heart, and your heart organ is the element rather for the heart organ is fire. And so you consider or you imagine a beautiful room, a cozy room where there is a fireplace right there inside of your heart. And perhaps there's a nice, comfortable place to sit, an armchair or a beautiful, luxurious rug. And you can just relax there inside your heart. Perhaps that's the place where the Holy Spirit is waiting for you. You can see two chairs if you want to, and the Holy Spirit is occupying one of them. And so you're given permission again to use your imagination as the bridge and to visualize a beautiful room right there in your heart center to meet the Holy Spirit who's waiting for you there. Or perhaps there is a sacred area in your mind that you can find. All right, let's continue to paragraph 6. So God's plan is simple, never circular, and never self-defeating. He has no thoughts except the self-extending, and in this, your will must be included. Thus, there must be a part of you that knows his will and shares it. It is not meaningful to ask if what must be is so, but it is meaningful to ask why you're unaware of what is so, for this must have an answer if the plan of God for your salvation is complete. And it must be complete because its source knows not of incompletion. Okay, so for paragraph 6, God has no thoughts except the self-extending, making more of himself. So God is love, and love wants to make more of itself, right? Love really doesn't want to limit itself. That's a different force. Love wants to beget itself. It wants to expand. And so in this paragraph, it's now referring to your little will and then his will, which is capitalized. The H in his is capitalized. The W in will is capitalized. So keep in your mind, there's this little personal will that has its wants, its desires, and then there is the higher will, God's will. But there is a part of you, of your mind, of your consciousness, of your awareness, of your knowing, your knowledge that shares God's will. And that part of the mind is accessible in true presence. And that's why the Course often refers to in the stillness. The Bible too refers to the stillness. Be still and know I am there. It is in the stillness, it's in the quietness that a part of us knows and shares God's will. It's the part of us that has no problems. It's the part of us that is curious about this experiment. It's the part of us that, even in the face of that which is uncomfortable, wants to play. That the uncomfortable is an opportunity to experience something and to respond in love. That's what it's for. And when we think about it, that which is uncomfortable, that which is awful and painful, is over pretty quickly unless we allow our mind to keep recycling it, to keep chewing on it and digesting it. Okay, so let's go to paragraph 7. Where would the answer be but in the source? And where are you but there? Where this same answer is. Your identity, as much a true effect of this same source as is the answer, must therefore be together in the same. Oh, yes, you know this, and more than this alone. Yet any part of knowledge threatens disassociation as much as all of it, and all of it will come with any part. Here is the part you can accept. What reason points to, you can see, because the witnesses on its behalf are clear. Only the totally insane can disregard them. And you've gone past this. Reason is a means that serves the Holy Spirit's purpose in its own right. It is not reinterpreted and redirected from the goal of sin, as are the others, for reason is beyond the ego's range of means. So let's just say that reason is within the jurisdiction of truth. Okay? All right, paragraph 8. All right. I'm just going to go back to share the screen. But before I do that, I'm going to turn on a light. It's getting pretty dark here. It's later in the day. So give me 1 second. Sharing the screen again for paragraph 8. Faith and perception and belief can be misplaced and serve the great deceiver's needs as well as truth. But reason has no place at all in madness, nor can it be adjusted to fit its end. Faith and belief are strong in madness, guiding perception toward what the mind has valued, but reason enters not at all in this, for the perception would fall away at once if reason were applied. There is no reason in insanity, for it depends entirely on reason's absence. The ego never uses it because it does not realize that it exists. The partially insane have access to it, and only they have need of it. Knowledge does not depend on it, and madness keeps it out. What's jumping out at me here is there is no reason in insanity, for it depends entirely on reason's absence. Insanity depends entirely on reason's absence. The ego never uses reason because it does not realize that reason even exists. The partially insane have access to reason, and only they have need of it. Knowledge does not depend on reason, and madness keeps reason out. So the partially insane, maybe that's us sitting here taking the time to explore these words, this text, and to practice the lessons. Maybe we're the partially insane. We're doing our best, right, to share God's perspective, to align our little will with His will. But again, that alignment only can happen in perfect presence when we are no longer arguing with reality as it is, with what's unfolding in front of us. But keeping in mind, too, that the way we experience reality is through our limited senses and through our past experiences. So when we're really exploring it, and we've touched upon this before, it's impossible to assume that any of this is real, actually, as convincing as it is. But the faith that this is real is the madness that this points to. But the irony is that this is what actually makes us feel a little mad. Okay, so I'm going to read paragraph 9 and 10 together to finish this up. The part of mind where reason lies was dedicated by your will in union with your fathers to the undoing of insanity. Here was the Holy Spirit's purpose accepted and accomplished both at once. Reason is alien to insanity, and those who use it have gained a means which cannot be applied to sin. Knowledge is far beyond attainment of any kind, but reason can serve to open doors you closed against it. We'll keep going for paragraph 10. You have come very close to this. Faith and belief have shifted, and you've asked the question the ego will never ask. Does not your reason tell you now the question must have come from something that you do not know, but must belong to you? Faith and belief upheld by reason cannot fail to lead to changed perception. And in this change is room made way for vision. Vision extends beyond itself, as does the purpose that it serves and all the means for its accomplishment. So paragraph 9 says, the part of mind where reason lies was dedicated by your will in union with your fathers to the undoing of insanity. Let's just accept or entertain the idea that there is a part of the mind where there is a joining, a union with the Father's mind, which then undoes the insanity, the small mad idea that we are separate from all that is. We are getting a hint also at timelessness and the abundant, the pregnant nature of this now moment, because here was the Holy Spirit's purpose accepted and accomplished both at once. That must be always. There's a part of the mind where the Holy Spirit's purpose was accepted, the Holy Spirit's purpose was accomplished, and that happened instantaneously at once. And so if it happened then, it's happening now, and it will happen in the future. So who would you be? Explore this. So who would I be if I was choosing to put the periscope of my attention on the part of my mind, to have faith in the part of the mind that is in union with the Father's? So we can't attain knowledge through the small, limited perception of the separated mind, but at least reason can serve to open doors you closed against knowledge. Is it possible to be a human being and share the same knowledge as God? Jesus' story tells us that that's a very special phenomena. It says, knowledge is far beyond attainment of any kind. Knowledge is the gnosis. And so to have true knowledge, is it possible? Can you be a human being and know what God knows? It's like asking a dog to know what we know, to know how the world works. But to the dog, the machinations, the systems, the processes, the rules, the regulations, the laws are all mysticism to a dog. That's just magic. It's unimaginable. A dog doesn't have access to that knowledge. And so it seems that, according to this anyway, we're the same. Knowledge is far beyond attainment. But it's saying here, but reason can serve to open doors you closed against it. With paragraph 10, it seems to say that given where we are in our journey, in our exploration, also taking into consideration that I started reading the text in the middle, we didn't start at chapter 1, but it's saying you have come very close to this. Also keep in mind that this is a transcribed work, and the Holy Spirit was speaking to this woman, Helen Schucman. I think of that sometimes when I'm reading the text. Who is the you? Is it specifically to you, the Helen Schucman, or is it to the greater you, meaning us? So let's assume that it is us. So you have come very close to using reason to open the doors, it sounds like. Faith and belief have shifted, and you have asked the question the ego will never ask. What I like about paragraph 10 too is that in a practical way, it's saying, if we're starting to question, what am I? What is this? Where did I come from? How does all of this work? If we're starting to question that, this is saying, so where did these questions come from? Are you the thinker of your thoughts? What are you going to think next? So this is saying that the questions that you're asking must have come from something that you do not know, but must belong to you. So these bigger seeking type questions come from the part of the mind that is seeking. So again, we're back to this split mind. There's a part of the mind that is seeking, that desperately wants to know the truth, that desperately wants to develop and nurture an intimate relationship with the divine, with God, to be able to ask questions, receive answers, to have God as a best friend, as as a nurturing father, as a nurturing mother. And that part is communicating to all the time if we just listened. And so who is the you that this part is communicating to? Well, it's the part of the mind, the differentiated part of the mind that sees the world as out there and itself as separate and in here. And so the formula for paragraph 10 is faith plus belief upheld by or fueled by reason. So these are the ingredients. Faith, belief, and true reason will lead to a shift in perception. And with that shift in perception comes true vision. And vision, like love, extends beyond itself, as does the purpose that it serves, which is love, and all the means for its accomplishment, which is love. Okay, so let's go back now. We're going to practice our lesson. And sorry, let's go back. We're going to, oh, shall I share the screen? I didn't share the screen. Sorry, I'm getting so tired now. It's getting late. Okay. All right. So now we're going to workbook for students, and we are at lesson 45. I'm going to have the narrator read this for us. Let me increase the volume a little bit.
Lesson 45. God is the mind with which I think. Today's idea holds the key to what your real thoughts are. They are nothing that you think, just as nothing that you think you see is related to vision in any way. There is no relationship between what is real and what you think is real. Nothing that you think are your real thoughts resemble your real thoughts in any respect. Nothing that you think you see bears any resemblance to what vision will show you. You think with the mind of God. Therefore, you share your thoughts with Him as He shares His with you. They are the same thoughts because they are thought by the same mind. To share is to make alike or to make one. Nor do the thoughts you think with the mind of God leave your mind, because thoughts do not leave their source. Therefore, your thoughts are in the mind of God as you are. They are in your mind as well, where He is. As you are part of His mind, so are your thoughts part of His mind. Where then are your real thoughts? Today we will attempt to reach them. We will have to look for them in your mind because that is where they are. They must still be there because they cannot have left their source. What is thought by the mind of God is eternal, being part of creation. Our 3 5-minute practice periods for today will take the same general form that we used in applying yesterday's idea. We will attempt to leave the unreal and seek for the real. We will deny the world in favor of truth. We will not let the thoughts of the world hold us back. We will not let the beliefs of the world tell us that what God would have us do is impossible. Instead, we will try to recognize that only what God would have us do is possible. We will also try to understand that only what God would have us do is what we want to do. And we will also try to remember that we cannot fail in doing what He would have us do. There is every reason to feel confident that we will succeed today. It is the will of God. Begin the exercises for today by repeating the idea to yourself, closing your eyes as you do so. Then spend a fairly short period in thinking a few relevant thoughts of your own, keeping the idea in mind. After you have added some 4 or 5 thoughts of your own to the idea, repeat it again and tell yourself gently, my real thoughts are in my mind. I would like to find them. Then try to go past all the unreal thoughts that cover the truth in your mind and reach to the eternal. Under all the senseless thoughts and mad ideas with which you have cluttered up your mind are the thoughts that you thought with God in the beginning. They are there in your mind now, completely unchanged. They will always be in your mind exactly as they always were. Everything you have thought since then will change, but the foundation on which it rests is wholly changeless. It is this foundation toward which the exercises for today are directed. Here is your mind joined with the mind of God. Here are your thoughts, one with His. For this kind of practice, only one thing is necessary. Approach it as you would an altar dedicated in heaven to God the Father and to God the Son. For such is the place you are trying to reach. You will probably be unable as yet to realize how high you are trying to go. Yet even with the little understanding you have already gained, you should be able to remind yourself that this is no idle game, but an exercise in holiness and an attempt to reach the kingdom of heaven. In the shorter exercise periods for today, try to remember how important it is to you to understand the holiness of the mind that thinks with God. Take a minute or two as you repeat the idea throughout the day to appreciate your mind's holiness. Stand aside, however briefly, from all thoughts that are unworthy of Him whose host you are, and thank Him for the thoughts He is thinking with you.
Amazing, isn't it? It's amazing how this lesson is just perfectly synchronized or a match to the section of the text that we read. It's just amazing how this happens again and again. So the idea for today's lesson is God is the mind in which I think. The invitation is to have 3 5-minute practice sessions during the day. So that would be upon waking, sometime in the middle of the day, and then in the evening, perhaps before retiring. And then there are shorter practice periods throughout the day. So in the longer practice periods, the instruction is that you search your mind, allow 4 or 5 thoughts of your own relating to the idea, pertaining to the idea, and then repeating, God is the mind in which I think, and then telling yourself very gently, my real thoughts are in my mind. I would like to find them. All right, so let's prepare to practice together. We will practice for 5 minutes. It's going to be a 5-minute meditation together, which I think for me is a bit of a luxury to take that kind of time. A lot can happen in 5 minutes. You can sink into the deep well of peace in 5 minutes. You can come home to the massive realization that in this moment that you are 100% unconditionally loved and supported, and that everything is conspiring to support your existence. And so then your existence must be important. So to realize that, who would you be? So use that as a abseiling cord, I guess. I don't know the right language, to just settle into, to come down into the truth of this now moment. Let your eyelids rest over your eyes. Give yourself permission to relax into the support that's here. Exhale fully, letting it go, letting go of the past. Dropping the shoulders, relaxing into the unconditional love and support of this now moment. Perhaps even allowing a gentle smile to play on the face. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and start the timer. If you haven't already, let your eyelids rest over your eyes. Sink into the incredible, unconditional, loving support that's here. Exhaling fully, letting go, dropping the shoulders. Perhaps there's room now to allow a gentle smile to play on your face as you remember that the power of the universe is conspiring to support this life, that you are important. Saying to yourself, God is the mind with which I think. God is the mind with which I think. And just let any ideas pertaining to this bubble up. 4 to 5 unique ideas. And then telling yourself gently, my real thoughts are in my mind. My real thoughts are in my mind. I would like to find them. Endeavoring to go past all the unreal thoughts that cover the truth in your mind. Reaching now for the eternal. Okay, so that's our timer. So, how was that for you? I'm curious to hear. What thoughts are unchanging? So, every thought we have is in the mind of God. What we are exists within the mind of God. An idea, as the text says, and as this lesson reminds us, can never leave its source. So each thought that we have, even the senseless ones, even the mad ideas, the insane ones, have a purpose. And so often that purpose is to find the opposite, to find what's truly true. Thoughts can create feeling states, right? We were told that a mind that is following misperception or perceiving through the lens of being separate and small and vulnerable leads to depression. And so when we feel these unpleasant or stressful feeling states as a result of where we've landed our periscope of attention, then they too are an opportunity to seek peace, to choose a more loving, connecting thought, or to be still, to turn our mind's eye, to turn our faces, our attention to the truth, to God, to the Holy Spirit. And so that's how every thought, every idea, even the unpleasant ones, have a purpose. And the purpose is still love. That's the changeless, actually. Yeah. All right. So I'm going to share the screen again so that we can explore our principle. So we click on the text, chapter 1, the meaning of miracles, the principle of miracles. And so we are looking at principle number 13. And as I've said before, you can take a screenshot to contemplate this throughout the day. Miracles are both beginnings and endings, and so they alter the temporal order. They are always affirmations of rebirth, which seem to go back, but really go forward. They undo the past in the present and thus release the future. So good. This is one worth keeping because the Eastern healing arts point to this same wisdom. The practices of cultivating attention on the now moment, on the present moment, creates spaciousness and gives the opportunity to release the past, to release the energies of the past, the limiting beliefs, false thought systems, frivolous ideas, distracting thoughts, to let them go so that the mind becomes filled instead with the truth of this now moment. And then by coming home and filling the mind and the body and the cells with the truth of this now moment, as the body starts to calibrate to the frequency and the pace of this now moment, that changes what comes next. Amazing. So one thing too, I didn't remember to say is that during the shorter practice periods for the lesson, let me just go over that. So in the shorter practice periods for the day, try to remember how important it is to you to understand the holiness of the mind that thinks with God. So take a minute or two as you repeat the idea throughout the day to appreciate your mind's holiness. Stand aside, however briefly, from all thoughts that are unworthy of him whose host you are, and thank him for the thoughts he is thinking with you. So beautiful. So beautiful. So spending a day in this practice is really, really quite glorious. And so who would we be committing to sharing a holy mind? We'd be starting again, that in the face of limiting thoughts and beliefs, in the face of that, that we put them aside and fill the mind instead of our worthiness, our magnificence, our unique, gorgeous graces, filling our mind with these things so that we can feel that worth. And just as a reminder, this came up in our Sunday services, that worthiness, the word worth, is associated with the word worship. That worship comes from the word worth. And so it's to have respect and reverence. So really, it behooves us to give ourselves permission to give that to ourselves first. All right. So thank you for joining with me and going through the text and practicing the lesson together today. I will be continuing the meditation classes and the meditation natural healing self-help classes online. So you can go to the website elilacenter.org, click on the calendar, and you can find the access links there. The meditation class is on the third Tuesday of the month. And then the meditation natural healing self-help class is on the fourth Monday of the month at 7 p.m. Eastern. These classes give you an opportunity to master where to put the periscope of your attention so that your mind fills with the truth of this now moment. And so therefore creating the conditions to receive that still small voice, to hear that still small voice, which is really what we want, right? All right. So I'm looking forward to seeing you next time. Thank you for bearing with me through this one as I squeeze it in on this full day. What I wanted to say was that if there's anything you wish to share in the comments, I'm exploring this with you as well. So if you have a question, let's explore that question together. And again, if you are experiencing any kind of resistance, or if you had any kind of ahas, or if this reminds you of something, please feel free to share in the comments, because I'd love to hear what this experience is like for you, what this experiment is like for you. All right, have a fantastic day. I'm actually recording this in the evening, but this lesson is to be practiced morning, afternoon, and evening. I will see you next time. Bye.